viciously ripped away from our lands and culture, but rarely ever mentioned in history textbooks or the news. This is Tribal Times, here to spread awareness of Native American history and contemporary issues. In the 1830s, there were around 125,000 Native Americans living on millions of acres throughout Georgia, Tennessee, North Carolina, Alabama, and Florida. These lands were famous for cultivating cotton and ultimately the mining of discovered gold. The Europeans were like a magnet to America, attracted by free land. Many of these settlers were slave owners who desired limitless land for lucrative cash crops. They believed in the idea of manifest destiny and felt that Native Americans were stopping them from expanding. For this, they invaded numerous times. The white settlers looted their houses, livestock, and illegally occupied their lands. March 28, 1830, a dark day for the Cherokee people, when the U.S. Congress passed the Indian Removal Act. Due to this act, thousands of Native Americans were forcibly detained from their ancestors' lands. It also becomes famous for the Trail of Tears. We would like to brief you on the reasons on why this act was introduced, as most people are unaware of the reasons behind the Indian Removal Act of 1830. The Indian Removal Act was established to transfer hundreds of thousands of acres in 9 different states from Native Americans to white settlers. The act was drafted by Andrew Jackson, who was once involved in brutal campaigns against the Creeks in Alabama and Georgia. The Indian Removal Act was passed in 1830 and it gave the federal government the authority to transfer the native-held cotton-rich land to the west, and to shift them to a dedicated colonized area. According to the law, it does not permit anyone to coerce native nations from their native lands. The Trail of Tears involved the mass displacement of native people during events that happened 2 decades in the 1930s. It was a forced migration of more than 60,000 Native Americans in the northeast and southeast United States. Politicians steered and controlled the events after gold was discovered in Cherokee land between 1828 and 1829. Politicians took a significant role in the efforts to deprive Native Americans who lived east of the Mississippi River of their lands and property. A legislative act catalyzed the removal of the native people in 1930. The Indian Removal Act allowed the United States President to agree with the tribes in the western part to exchange their lands and property within desirable regions and state boundaries. That led to the eviction of many native people from their homes, and they were forced under severe coercion to take the westward journey. However, some groups in 1932 tried armed resistance to the eviction, although the more populous southeast tribes had far better success. While the tribes were expelled from their lands, the Cherokee tribe was the last tribe to resist till the end. They filed a written petition in the U.S. Supreme Court and ultimately won the case. However, the Georgia government chose to ignore the decision. The U.S. troops then began forcefully removing the Cherokee people from their lands. It took almost 7 years to vacate the 5 tribes from their homelands, and again, going against their word, the government did not support them in any way. Similarly, the Native Americans were also detained from other states such as Mississippi to the Indian Territory, and their lands were also seized. Based on the Indian Removal Act, over 25 million acres of land were illegally acquired by white settlers from the Native Americans. The journey was made without any medical or food supplies, and about 4,000 Cherokees died due to starvation, severe weather conditions, and different types of diseases. The pain and suffering experienced on this journey gave its name, known as the Trail of Tears. While talking to a newspaper agency, a leader of the Choctaw tribe called this journey the Trail of Tears and Death. Under severe United States military supervision, the native people were forced to march westwards between 1838 and 1839. The physical trail involved several routes over the land and through water, stretching 5,043 miles across 9 states. In memory of those who suffered and died through the trek of the Trail of Tears, the United States Congress officially designated the trek as a National Historic Trail in 1987.